A little while ago, I did a video on banned books, and there were 3 books in particular that I had bought for that series that I didn't get around to reading. I've done it, I've read them, and I want to go over them with you. So before I start, in my last video, I referenced something from the ALA. The ALA is the American Library Association, and what they do is every year they compile a list of the 10 most challenged books that year, and they'll list the book, the author, and a brief summary about why it was challenged. My dog is down here walking around, so if you can hear her, I'm sorry. The second thing that I referenced was something put out by a group called PEN America. And PEN America put together a resource that you can go to, and you can find every school district in the United States that has banned a book, and whether or not they banned it from their library or whether they ban it from their curriculum, and oftentimes it's both. The way I pick my books is I look through the ALA list, and I found books that were listed over and over and over again, and I picked ones that were often on there so that I could see what's happening. So anyway, first book that I read is this one here. This is by Alexi Sherman, and it was first published in 2007. And this book is about a boy named Junior who lives on the Spokane Reservation. And he is going to high school. So on his first day of high school on the reservation, he decides that instead he wants to go to an all-white school 20-something miles away. In doing so, the people on the reservation consider him a traitor, and in particular his best friend. And then the white people that he's going to school with, don't know him and are treating him poorly. And so this is a story about him having one foot in each of these worlds and not necessarily being accepted in the beginning in either of them. It is a very funny book in a self-deprecating kind of way. It's also heavy in parts, but I think because of the humor, the heaviness, it doesn't land softer, but you get a reprieve. The most recent year that the ALA has listed is 2021, obviously, because 2022 hasn't happened. And this book is number 6 on the list. In the one in 2017, it says, consistently challenged since its publication in 2007 for acknowledging issues such as poverty, alcoholism, sexuality, this National Book Award winner was challenged in schools' curriculums because of profanity and situations that were deemed sexually explicit. So something that's very strange is I don't remember anything sexual in this book. Sexually explicit. It's been a couple weeks since I've read it, but I couldn't recount to you what was sexually explicit in this book. I feel like what happens a lot with the challenged books is that the people who are challenging them are forcing people to have a fake conversation. For example, in 2020 it says, the reasons banned and challenged for profanity, sexual reference, and allegations of sexual misconduct by the author. I have no idea what that's in reference to. I just read this book, and that is a very serious allegation. One that I can't imagine that I wouldn't remember. So I feel like people who are challenging these books aren't truthful, obviously. They put this thing out there and they force people to have a conversation that isn't real. So for this example, they're making me talk about whether or not there's sexuality in this book, which I won't say there isn't, but it's nothing stood out to me to even remember that about this book. They're forcing me to talk about violence in this book. Again, I don't know what they're referring to. But there's some very deep, very heavy things that have happened in this book that are very powerful and moving. But no one's talking about those, and they shouldn't be on any of this list. But like, that's what should be talked about in a conversation. It's infuriating. It's infuriating to read why people have decided to think that this book should be banned. It shouldn't. It's a good book. Read it. It's funny, it's moving, it's deep, it makes you think, it's a great book. Read it. The next book that I read is Genderqueer, a memoir written by Maya Kobabe. This book was published in 2019, and it is a graphic novel. 2021 is the first time I've seen this book on the ALA list. But if you go to the list by PEN America, which again is in the link, of schools that have banned this book, it is by far the longest list you will find. Alaska, Florida, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Washington, and in several districts in each of those states, this book is banned. This book can be looked at in two ways. One is as a textbook, the way the schools are looking at it, and the second is just purely through a story lens. First, as far as textbook goes, this is incredible as a textbook. This should not be banned in these schools. They are talking about gender identity and their path to identifying as non-binary and asexual. Maya Kobabe talks about their pronouns, which are A, R, and M, which are new to me. I hadn't heard those pronouns before, but I learned about them in this book. So I went and I researched where those pronouns came from, why people choose to use those pronouns. Also in this book, there's reference to scientific studies about the brain and gender, and there's quotes from professors, and there is reference to each of those studies so that you can go and you can look it up and you can learn more. Maya Kobabe's story is also educational because you think about things, when you haven't experienced something, you don't think about things that the person experiencing it does, obviously. And so as an educational tool, this book is incredible. I can see why so many teachers have tried to use this book as an educational tool because it's incredible for that. As far as the story goes, I feel like the story lacks a little depth. There's a lot on the surface, which, as an educational book is good. In the beginning, I keep looking at it because I'm trying to remember their name. So in the beginning, Maya Kobabe talks about their parents and how they themselves are not very gender conforming, and they raised Maya in a non-traditional house that, where Maya could be whoever Maya wanted to be. As Maya Kobabe was going through their journey and learning who they were and decided on their pronouns, there's a little discussion about how her mom had struggled with it and was challenging it. And I feel like that juxtaposition of these seemingly non-conforming parents not just struggling with, but challenging Maya's choice of pronouns, I feel like that's a very deep, complex dive that could have been taken and wasn't. But perhaps that's not where Maya Kobabe was trying to go. If it's not where you're trying to go, it's interesting that it was put into the book. So if you're looking for a simple, just the story, just the memoir part, it might not be quite deep, but if you're looking for an educational book, if you're looking for representation, if you're looking for understanding, this is the book. This is the book. There is a reason that so many teachers have chosen to have this as their curriculum. It's incredible. I looked so much stuff up after reading this. I took a deep dive into learning because this book opened my eyes to so many things that I didn't understand prior to reading this. And I'm thankful for it. I'm glad it did that for me. And it's what books should do. And so, read the book. It's good. The last book that I read is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This book was published in 2017, and it has been on the list over and over and over again since 2007. I think it made the list every single year. It was number 5 in 2021. Reasons banned and challenged for profanity, violence, because it was thought to promote an anti-police message and indoctrine of a social agenda. It was number 10 in 2020, number 4 in 2018. Reasons challenged because it was deemed anti-cop. In 2017, it was number 8. I feel like they have different people writing up the blurb in each year. So this is the blurb in 2017 about why The Hate You Give is on the list. Despite winning multiple awards and being the most searched for book on Goodreads during its debut year, the young adult novel was challenged and banned in school libraries and curriculum because it was considered pervasively vulgar and because of drug use, profanity, and offensive language. I do not know what drug use they're talking about. This is another example of them saying something that I don't, must have been so tiny in the book. Again, I'm not saying it wasn't there because I'm just saying I don't remember that. That wasn't what this book was. So what this book is about is a girl named Star, who is a 16-year-old black girl who witnesses her friend murdered by cops. And like everyone who's a human being, she has lots of different parts of her life. And this event affects each part. Her and her brothers attend a predominantly white high school that is 20-something miles away. And she's gone to that school since she was a kid. And so because of that, she has lots of friends there who are white. But she's not from that neighborhood. She's from a neighborhood that's predominantly black, and she has friends in that neighborhood too. And so one of the things that's explored in this book, like in this book, is that dichotomy. There are so many layers in this book that I'm having a hard time picking which ones to talk about because there's just so much. Her uncle is a police officer. And how does that affect her life? The way the media portrays the victims of shootings. There's just so much to unpack in this book. It's really, really an incredible book. I used to be an organizer in a union. And there comes a point where the workers in the union understand their power. And in understanding their power, the boss or the company gets afraid. Because the boss and the company know how much power the workers actually have. And the companies typically spend a lot of their energy pushing down workers so that they never understand their power. And they do this by putting up posters and holding closed door meetings and things like that. Initially, when you see these posters, it's really infuriating, really frustrating because what's on the poster, what's being said about having a union is a lie. And much like the union, they're putting up propaganda, they're putting up reasons that are fake, that aren't real, that are lies about why children shouldn't read these books. And that makes me a little happy. It's infuriating, it's frustrating, but holy crap, are these powerful books. And they should be read, they should be checked out. Every teenager should go read every single one of these books. Every adult should go and read every single one of these books and others. I urge everyone to go look at the resources that I've listed. Maybe there's a book that resonates with you that you would rather read, and I would love to hear if it's something that I should read. That's it. Happy reading, happy finding stories. I really enjoyed doing this series. I really, really, really enjoyed reading these books. And I hope you read them too. Olive, you can't be up here. You can't be up here, baby girl.